Громадянин США, етнічний русин по імені Старік Поллок, котрий перший раз приїхав до Закарпаття. Вивчаючи там дома в Америці історію русинського народу, вчений дослідник, які почуття є в твоєму серці, низ, коли ти в гостях у нас в Карпатах, що ти пак розповіш у себе вдома в Америці про те, що ти побачив тут? Добрий день, шановні русини. Низ у нас в гостях громадянин США, етнічний русин по імені Старік Поллок, котрий перший раз приїхав до Закарпаття. Приїхав в Карпати на рідну землю своїх предків, карпатських русинів. Він полюбив землю своїх предків-русинів. Йому нравлять наші храми, наші ліса, наші замки старі, річки, котрі є в Карпатах. А він перший раз у нас в Карпатах. Які сади є, яка рослинність у нас є. Прості, звичайні люди сподобалися. Незважаючи на те, що у нас сьогодні дуже тяжка ситуація, в державі війна, люди переміщені, люди, котрі не мають де жити, не мають свого постійного місця проживання, не мають роботи, декотрі взагалі не мають свого житла вже, бо воно є втрачене. І незважаючи на те, що 30 років і русинам не так легко живеться, як би хотілося, може, як етнічній меншині і православнім, але Старіку дуже подобається у нас в Закарпатті. Він погодився дати інтерв'ю для нас і трішки розказати про себе, про те, як він є русин, і також про те, чим він займається. Які почуття є в твоєму серці, низ, коли ти в гостях у нас в Карпатах, як громадянина США, а в той самий час етнічного русина карпатського, котрий перший раз попав на землю русинів, звідки русини. Як ти спочатку, коли ти сюди не попав, що ти вдумав про нас? І яке у тебе враження тепер, коли ти тепер уже попав на землю русинів?
Well, I would say that it was certainly a kind of what had been in my mind meets reality. I would say that in general, when you've never been somewhere before, it kind of has this mystique about it that is really, shall I say, I mean, you're never going to know a place really unless you go there. I mean, you can see pictures, you can see videos, people can tell you stories, but you'll never really know it unless you go there. So it was really an eye-opening experience. I would say that, many of the things that I had read for years, seeing in person was just incredible. I would say too that, I always thought the people here would be generous and wonderful to speak to, but I mean, it really was so enjoyable talking to people here, seeing how everyone kind of treats each other well. Even a friend of mine here, he accidentally forgot his bag at a restaurant, and when he called them the next morning, they still had it. We went and picked it up. They refused any money. Everyone has been so friendly, so helpful. It was really eye-opening. And I would say, generally speaking, I think that American Rusins kind of have this weird perspective on Subcarpathia, whether it be in terms of how Rusins are treated here, or whether it be how they view Americans. It was just all very different, and it seemed like even people who had been here before didn't know what they were talking about in America. So that's kind of my general view, I would say.
Дякую, файно. Наступне звідання. Вивчаючи там дома в Америці історію русинського народу і історію нашої республіки Подкарпатської Русь, що була в часі Чехословакії, і публікуючи статті про цю тему, ти писав нашу історію так, якби був такий вчений дослідник доброго рівня. Так як можемо повісти, таке враження у нас склало, що як будете русинів в Америці, але русинів і для нас. Які твої плани такі творчі, наукові на будуще? Що маємо від тебе чекати слідуючу? Яку книгу, чи яку серію, якісь там програм?
Well, I would say in general, my plans are to expand RLS, the Rusin Literature Society, to expand it into physical locations within the different Rusin regions of Europe. I plan to kind of had how should we say it, cross-pollination between different groups, those who attend classes and seminars and such in Prešov, or the Prešov region of Rusins. They would come to Transcarpathia. Transcarpathians would go to Pannonia. I think one of the biggest issues right now that we have is that there's no interlocking between different Rusin groups. They're all for themselves, shall we say. So in general, it's to expand RLS. I will continue writing on the academic front. I don't personally see myself as an academic. I see myself as more of a I think, I don't like the word activist, but I should say person who's trying to kind of bring the Rusin consciousness into a new era, shall we say. So those are my general plans. I have little side projects here and there, but that's pretty much it.
Як ти думаєш, чи може зробити так, що більше русинів, як ти, приїжджало із Америки в Закарпаття знайомитись з історичною землею своїх предків?
Well, I would say that I mean, I think it's a thing of marketing. The Slovak Rusins market themselves very well. There's trips all the time. You know, some of them were organized by, for example, John Rigetti and other people. You know, Slovakia is very adept at doing that, especially with the American Rusins. And so, do I think the potential is there? Certainly, yes, I do. I think that from the perspective of Americans, it seems as though here is kind of dangerous just because Ukraine doesn't recognize Rusins as a separate people. So we have this kind of issue of that when you're in Prešov, you can feel like you're out in the open about it. When you're here, it feels like, at least the American perception is that you'll get arrested or, you know, you'll be imprisoned for 10 years about it. So I mean, I think it's changing the perspective on that a bit. While I mean, I certainly think there's discrimination, but I think that there's better ways of marketing it than what we're doing right now, which is pretty much nothing. Do I think there is an audience? Certainly yes, just because, you know, the wealth of places, the wealth of history is much bigger here than, say, in Prešov or Lemkovena. So, yes, I mean, I think there's a chance. Do I focus on that much? You know, not really, I would say. I mean, I don't, you know, my interests more lie in the homeland than, say, the Rusin Americans. I think that, you know, I would rather have us focused, say, on Rusins from Transcarpathia going to all these places and kind of going in their own pilgrimages, or Slovak Rusins coming here rather than focusing on Americans. Well, sure, the money is there, but I mean, the chance of these people moving back here, focusing on this stuff, it's not likely, or I don't view it as a good use of time if you're focused on Rusin cultural development.
Що ви побажаєте русинам від себе, нашим закарпатським русинам, громадянам незалежної України на найближче майбутнє? Які ваші побажання для нас?
Well, I hope that Ukraine continues to, or goes with its promises of democratizing their society, of, shall we say, westernizing to some extent. I hope that this war is over sooner rather than later. You know, the massive deaths of not just Subcarpathians, but Galicians, Volhynians, Podolians. You know, it's a mark on society that doesn't leave for generations. So I also hope, just for Subcarpathian Rusins in general, I hope that you all here can one day freely say you are Rusin, learn in your language, and be able to be proud of your culture and not have it be kind of forgotten and oppressed. So that's what I would wish for you all.
Що ти пак розповіш у себе вдома в Америці про те, що ти побачив тут?
Well, I'd say it's certainly different from what you would expect. And it's certainly, no matter what anyone tells you, it's probably going to be different. I'd say that, you know, I think on, just to kind of give some clarification, I suppose, for many it's that on a political and organizational level, shall we say a structural level, Rusins are oppressed here by the government. They certainly are. I mean, there's no disagreeing about that. It's state policy, just like how in the Soviet Union it was state policy that Rusins didn't exist. That's certainly true. But it's interesting the things you find here, and the fact that we could do so much better even though the state policy is against us. And it's our lack of organization, it's our lack of ability to move forward in a manner in which will continue to give us more freedom and higher culture. Just a couple of examples that really stood out to me, in the kind of sense that the oppression or just the dynamic was different here. Is like, for example, there is a Duknovich statue saying, "I was, am, and will remain Rusin," in the center of Mukachevo. It's never been taken down. It's never anything like that. It's right there. And I saw people taking pictures with it and all these things. Perhaps they don't understand it, but still right there. You go into restaurants and people will write, we speak Ukrainian, Russian, Hungarian, Polish, and Rusin. I mean, these things happen all over. I mean, I went to the castle here in Uzhhorod, and mind you, this is run by the government, I'm pretty sure. In the bookshop of the main castle in Uzhhorod, there are books. There was like a stack of books talking about Rusins by Rusin authors, in English, in Ukrainian, in Rusin. And so it's these things of like, yes, on a governmental level, we are certainly being oppressed, but it's the fact that it is I've come to more fully understand it's many of our own failings in which have put us in this position, in that if these things can be out in the open and they can be done, and it's not like people are banging down their doors and like taking them off to some gulag somewhere, there's more for us to do. So yes, we need to focus on the institutional issues, but also if you come here, realize that except for a couple kind of strange things, when I've been here, I haven't been followed by the police or anything like that. So it's just going to be different, and no matter how much I describe it here, you're not going to understand it until you actually get here. So I would just recommend coming here, talking with the locals, understanding what is exactly going on, because it's really, it's a fascinating example of kind of relations between a very unique region and a larger state. So.
Файно, дякую тобі, Старік, за це інтерв'ю. Думаю, що буде дуже інтересно воно попозирити нашим русинам в Закарпатті. І взагалі, що ти така людина приїхав до нас презентувати, в тим числі презентувати свій проєкт трішки. Ми дуже за це благодарні, дуже тобі вдячні. Запрошуємо тебе ще приїжджати до нас, пам'ятати про нас, з нами общати, писати для нас, як ти робиш, створювати наступний контент для нас і також привозити наступні рази з собою ще наших русинів, щоб вас більше приїжджало на Закарпаття.